When looking back into the history of the WWE, I feel like when you look at the 2010s, you fondly remember the year 2016. Because prior to when the WWE brought back the brand split and made each show feel unique, it just felt like a jumble of talent that wasn't getting used to the best of their ability following 2011 through 2015. But that all changed when the WWE decided to split the brands back up and give each brand on Monday and now Tuesday, which would be SmackDown, formerly on Friday and Thursday, a different feel. With SmackDown no longer suffering from a tape delay with the results being able to be leaked before the show, it added a layer of excitement to the brand that hadn't been there in years. And with the newly minted general managers and commissioners for Raw and SmackDown, with Monday getting Stephanie McMahon as the general manager and Mick Foley as the commissioner, and with SmackDown getting Daniel Bryan, a former now retired superstar, at least at that point in time, being the general manager and the commissioner being Shane McMahon, it gave that sense of brand supremacy and most importantly brand warfare that we hadn't seen since the beginning, middle, and end of the Ruthless Aggression era. But we're not going to talk about Monday Night Raw. We're going to talk about SmackDown because SmackDown had its best years since the Ruthless Aggression era in early 2002 through 2007 in the year 2016, alongside the leadership of McMahon and Bryan. When looking at the brand's post-brand split, it seemed as if Monday Night Raw got all the heavy hitters, at least for the most part. Monday Night Raw had the Beast Incarnate Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and the list went on and on and on. SmackDown, for their top stars, had the likes of Bray Wyatt, the phenomenal AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Luke Harper, who would return, and we'll talk about that later in the video, and John Cena, along with the member of The Shield who felt the most like an outcast being relegated or delegated to now the land of opportunity in Dean Ambrose, the WWE champion. But for the most part, it seemed as if SmackDown was again being treated as the B show. It wasn't the A show, and that has always been the story of SmackDown, whether it was on Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays. It was always treated and relegated as such to the B show, with Raw having the most focus on the storylines. However, this was the first time since the Ruthless Aggression era and the dawning and creation of the SmackDown 6 under the original leader of SmackDown and Paul Heyman that SmackDown was treated as exactly what it was branded to be, and that was the land of opportunity. Following the WWE Draft, it would really kick off after Battleground 2016, and that would be where all three members of The Shield would compete in a triple threat match to crown the WWE Champion, and whoever would win that championship would be the man who would carry the top prize in the WWE to whatever brand he landed on. However, we had from Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and from SmackDown, you had the Outcast and the third wheel of The Shield, in some people's opinion, in Dean Ambrose. And to many people's surprise, Ambrose would be the man who would win the triple threat match, getting a victory for SmackDown in this brand supremacy warfare and taking the title to Tuesday nights, calling for the creation of a new world championship for Monday Night Raw, and that would be known as the Red Strapped Universal Championship, which when it was originally created got so much hate from fans all over the WWE universe that it wasn't even funny. However, the finals of the tournament to crown this new champion would kick off at SummerSlam 2016, and the two members of the roster who would compete to become the first ever Universal Champion would be the former NXT champion who got called up in this draft in the Demon King Finn Balor, taking on one member of The Shield and the most athletic and promising member of The Shield in many people's eyes in Seth freaking Rollins. However, it would be the NXT standout and former NXT champion in Finn Balor who would win the title, becoming the first ever and inaugural WWE Universal Champion for Monday Night Raw. However, the title run would be cut short after just under 24 hours, where Finn Balor would have to relinquish the title due to injury and spend over a year away rehabbing his shoulder. When it comes to the SmackDown brand and their side of SummerSlam 2016, at least in the main event scene, you had Dean Ambrose defending the WWE Championship against the winner of a six-pack challenge to crown a number one contender that would take place on SmackDown in and of itself. The members of that six-pack challenge would be as follows: Apollo Crews, the phenomenal AJ Styles, the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt, the Lone Wolf Baron Corbin, John Cena, and Dolph Ziggler. And the winner of that match would come after a super kick was delivered to the phenomenal AJ Styles, and a 1-2-3 was counted, crowning Dolph Ziggler as the new #1 contender for the WWE title. This would seem to have wanted to kick off the development of Dolph Ziggler's run towards that main event scene, since he won the title after cashing in the Money in the Bank contract on Alberto Del Rio back in 2013. However, after Ziggler's title run was cut short due to a concussion, he would never seem to make his way back to the main event scene, at least until now, or so we thought. But he would go on to lose the match against Dean Ambrose and have Ambrose retain the title at SummerSlam. And then at the first brand-exclusive SmackDown pay-per-view following the brand split in September of 2016 at Backlash, Dolph Ziggler would challenge the then Intercontinental Champion for his title in The Miz. This was the kickoff of one of the most emotional and roller coaster type feuds that the WWE has seen since the iterations in the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression era. The Miz would get by the literal skin of his teeth after Maurice would interfere, blinding Dolph Ziggler with hairspray or some form of perfume, allowing for Miz to hit the skull-crushing finale and dash Dolph Ziggler's Intercontinental Championship dreams for the time being. The Miz was an amazing heel at the time in 2016, and he really went on to carry the SmackDown brand through 2016 and 2017, and even into 2018. And Miz is doing some great work at this point, even delivering some of the best in-ring work he's ever done in his career in the year 2023. The feud between The Miz and Ziggler would carry on with a title versus career match at No Mercy 2016, where Dolph Ziggler would cut one of his most emotional and best promos throughout his entire career, saying that sometimes the things you love don't always love you back, and you can give, and you can give, and you can give, and sometimes you get nothing. You get nothing in return. And Ziggler was willing to risk everything because he knew he could defeat The Miz and become the Intercontinental Champion. So at No Mercy 2016, it was The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. This could be considered by many to be the best match on the entire SmackDown brand for the year 2016. It was such a roller coaster and one of the best performances of both The Miz and Dolph Ziggler's career. But it would end after Dolph Ziggler would have one shoe removed, where he was basically hopping on one leg, and he would hit a super kick on The Miz with the foot that the shoe was removed from and crawl into the cover to get the 1-2-3, thus saving his career and becoming the new WWE Intercontinental Champion. Fans believed at the time that this was the ticket for Ziggler to make his way towards that main event scene, kind of like Seth Rollins would do with his Intercontinental Championship run in 2018, and how John Cena would main event basically with the United States Championship, elevating the mid-card title's prestige. However, that was not the case, and Ziggler would lose the title back to The Miz shortly after winning it, and after that, Ziggler would never get another shot at a World Championship on the main roster. If we go back to talk about Backlash 2016 in September of this year, like we just touched on with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler's feud, we need to talk about AJ Styles, the phenomenal AJ Styles, who made his WWE debut to a hotly contested crowd in the Royal Rumble of 2016 in January of this year. But after the brand split, he would be moved over to SmackDown, and throughout 2016 and in 2017, SmackDown would become known as the house that AJ Styles built by the face that runs the place in the phenomenal AJ Styles. Styles would win his first WWE Championship by defeating Dean Ambrose at Backlash 2016. He would follow it up with taking on John Cena and Dean Ambrose in a triple threat match at No Mercy in October, where he would again retain the title successfully, kicking off the WWE Championship reign with very strong title defenses. AJ Styles would carry this title all the way until January 2017's Royal Rumble event, where he would take on John Cena in their trilogy of matches, which kicked off at Money in the Bank 2016, where Styles defeated John Cena with the help of club members in Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and then when he defeated John Cena at SummerSlam 2016 while running the Beat Up John Cena tour clean as a whistle, going 2-0 against the 16-time world champion. but this would all culminate in a story and a crescendo moment for John Cena at the Royal Rumble when the trilogy between Styles and Cena took place. Styles successfully retained his championship against Dean Ambrose in December's SmackDown exclusive Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view in a TLC match, which carried us into the trilogy with Cena and Styles at Royal Rumble 2017, where John Cena would defeat AJ Styles in the best match of their feud and one of the best matches of John Cena's entire career against the face that runs the place and break Ric Flair's championship record, becoming a 17-time world champion in the process. Now let's shift our focus to one of the most intriguing storytelling aspects of the year 2016 in the WWE, with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt's feud, which would turn into Randy Orton joining the Wyatt family alongside Bray Wyatt and the returning Luke Harper to terrorize SmackDown for the remainder of 2016 and into early 2017, going into WrestleMania 33. At November's Survivor Series pay-per-view, it would be Randy Orton who would help Bray Wyatt to get a pinfall victory on both Seth Rollins after hitting an airborne RKO, and then sacrificing himself to Roman Reigns and jumping in front of a spear that was intended for Bray Wyatt, and allowing Wyatt to hit the Sister Abigail on Roman Reigns to win the traditional Survivor Series match for Team SmackDown, thus pledging his allegiance to the leader of the Wyatt family and the leader of the occult in Bray Wyatt. Going into December's TLC pay-per-view, Wyatt and Orton were able to capture the SmackDown Tag Team Championships by defeating Heath Slater and Rhino, who were the champions at the time, with the assistance of the returning Luke Harper, who made his return at October's No Mercy pay-per-view, which we already touched on multiple times throughout the video. And Luke Harper was actually intended to be included in the Wyatt and Orton match at WrestleMania 33. However, after losing to AJ Styles in a match on SmackDown, he would no longer be included in the plans. And I feel like that was a big mishap and a misstep on WWE's creative team's part, because I feel like if you had Luke Harper included in that match, and it was Harper, Wyatt, and Orton, it would have added so much more intrigue to the match that was severely underwhelming going into WrestleMania. However, getting back on track, Orton would eventually turn on Bray Wyatt and take himself out of the Wyatt family after torturing Bray mentally and burning down the Wyatt compound where the spirit of Sister Abigail was housed. This would cause Wyatt to lose his mind, and going into his WWE Championship defense against the Royal Rumble 2017 winner in the former member of the Wyatt family in Randy Orton. Orton would win the Royal Rumble after Roman Reigns was unsuccessful in defeating the Universal Champion Kevin Owens earlier in the night, and much to the dismay of all the fans in attendance, Roman Reigns would enter the Royal Rumble at number 30 when many people believed it would be the returning Finn Balor who would enter the match and win, heading into WrestleMania to try to recapture the title he never lost in the Universal Championship. However, after Orton countered a spear from Reigns with an RKO and clotheslined him over the top rope, Randy Orton would go into WrestleMania challenging the WWE Champion at the time, and the winner of the SmackDown Elimination Chamber for the WWE Championship in Bray Wyatt. But now let's get into one of my favorite parts of this video after talking about the Wyatt and Orton feud, which is going to be the SmackDown Tag Division for 2016. The SmackDown Tag Team Division was pretty stacked. You had members like Heath Slater and Rhino, which we'll talk about in a minute. You had the Hype Bros and Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder. You had the Ascension and Connor and Victor. You had the newly debuting NXT call-ups in Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, aka American Alpha. And the list went on and on and on. And you even had the Usos rebranding themselves and becoming heel, which would lead into the Bloodline Usos that we know now after they attacked American Alpha, taking them out of the SmackDown Tag Team title tournament. The tag team titles would eventually be won by Heath Slater and Rhino. A very unlikely team, but a very entertaining part of SmackDown television and weekly television for the year 2016 following the draft. Heath Slater would do whatever he possibly needed to do in order to get a SmackDown Live contract from Bryan and McMahon. He was a free agent following the draft, and he wanted to prove himself and did whatever he could to get a contract, and this included joining up with Rhino to become a member of this SmackDown Tag Team title tournament. And Slater and Rhino would win the tournament by defeating Jimmy and Jay in the newly formed heel Usos after the Usos defeated the Hype Bros and Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder earlier on in the Backlash pay-per-view. Now, the tag team title reign of Heath Slater and Rhino wouldn't last that long, but it was entertaining to say the least, and the story behind it made it worth it. However, they would drop the tag team championships to the newly formed Wyatt family in Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton at Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2016. Then, at the SmackDown Live Wildcard Finals in the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois on December 27th, to wrap up 2016 for the SmackDown brand, American Alpha and Chad Gable and Jason Jordan would finally get the chance to win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships after being taken out of the tournament by the new heel Usos due to injury. And in the SmackDown Live Wildcard Finals, Gable and Jordan would defeat Heath Slater and Rhino, the Usos, and Luke Harper and Randy Orton in order to become the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. The match lasted almost 30 minutes, going 23 minutes and 7 seconds, and it was able to give Chad Gable and Jason Jordan their crowning moment on the SmackDown brand following their call-up in the 2016 draft. And I feel like the 2016 draft is probably the best draft that they've done, in my opinion, since the draft was brought back. I mean, you had John Cena, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, the Wyatt family, all drafted to SmackDown. You had the NXT call-ups of Alexa Bliss, Finn Balor, American Alpha. I believe the Vaudevillains were called up in Aiden English and Simon Gotch in this draft as well. A lot of NXT call-ups. I mean, you had Alexa Bliss was probably the most star-studded women's call-up in the draft. And then with Balor, American Alpha, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, John Cena, AJ Styles going to SmackDown. You had Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns on Raw, Brock Lesnar on Raw. I mean, I think that this was the best draft that they've done since they've done the draft. But you could disagree with me, and if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But let's wrap up this video on SmackDown 2016. Overall, I would say that this gave SmackDown back the feel that it needed to have. It was always the B show, but I feel like following the draft in 2016, even though it's technically the B show still, it gave it the feeling of the A show, and it gave it the feeling of that ruthless aggression Paul Heyman ran 0203 SmackDown brand. I mean, with really solid workers on the show that we've mentioned throughout and really solid storylines. I mean, the feud between Ziggler and The Miz. You had the women's title division with Becky Lynch becoming the SmackDown Women's Champion. Alexa Bliss eventually beating Becky Lynch for that championship. You had John Cena on SmackDown for the first time in a very long time after they teased it back in the 2011 draft, where he was drafted to SmackDown earlier in the night, then drafted back to Raw at the end of the night. Randy Orton joining the Wyatt family. I think that SmackDown 2016 was a bright spot in the last decade of the WWE. Last 10 to 15 years, I think people will look back fondly on SmackDown Live in 2016 and realize that it lived up to its name in being the land of opportunity. And things would change drastically in 2017 with Orton dropping the title to a very unsuspecting Jinder Mahal, and then Mahal holding the title for a lot longer than he should have. Shinsuke Nakamura getting about 10 championship matches for the world title and never winning the championship after winning the Royal Rumble in 2018 in one of the best Royal Rumble matches in a very, very, very long time, and one of the best booked Royal Rumble matches that they've ever done. But at the end of the day, this is about SmackDown 2016, and SmackDown 2016 was the land of opportunity, and it's one of my favorite years in WWE in the last decade. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to hit a RKO on the like button, a Sister Abigail on the subscribe button, and a phenomenal forearm on the notification bell so you do not miss any uploads from the premier pro wrestling and mixed martial arts channel on YouTube in the Touch 'em Up podcast. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.